Case-informed learning has been a well-established and effective strategy operationalized in the education of a range of healthcare professionals through simulation of real-life clinical presentations in practice. Familiar methods that fall under this category include problem-based learning or case-based discussion. With a problem-based method, learning occurs as a single chosen case unfolds and is designed to help the student build their clinical reasoning and problem-solving abilities by gathering information through directed self-learning. By comparison, case-based discussion may consider multiple authentic patient cases at one time and use inquiry-based techniques to achieve discrete learning objectives. The innovation of virtual learning environments for educational purposes has led to the successful transition of case-informed learning via this medium, and this offers a sustainable solution to those who experience challenges accessing face-to-face learning. However, there is a significant challenge for educators in using this traditionally narrative-based mechanism. We need to think about how we can overcome the criticism that examples often don't reflect the complexity of people's lives, since factual clinical details are often prioritized over the patient's story. Arguably, there's been a predominance of a professional and technical voice that is fundamentally more medical-centric than patient-centered. MacLeod proposed the concept of ontological fidelity. This refers to the degree that a simulator matches what a patient is, in other words, a real human person. As such, case-informed learning is an opportunity for educators to simulate patients' reality by framing the case narrative through their voices and their lived experience. Increasing ontological fidelity humanizes these case narratives. This brings an additional benefit as it aligns with andrological principles in that learner motivation and readiness to learn is increased by using authentic cases that reflect professional practice. As a consequence, this should lead to more meaningful and deeper learning rather than just surface memorization. A further challenge lies in the development of valid exemplars. If we want to create effective learning resources that impact positively upon students' critical thinking, clinical reasoning, and skills development, we need to pair existing technologies with students' prior experiential learning as well as the aims of the exercise. Fundamentally, in order to deliver a resource that incorporates both objective content alongside patient voice, careful consideration needs to be given around the design in the format, content, and its purpose. As you might expect, a typical case narrative often has a wholly clinical focus that includes a description of the presentation and symptoms and follows a predictable format. However, if we're to increase its ontological fidelity, then adding patient voices through videos, for example, can bring further gains in moving these patient narratives from the two-dimensional and increasing learner empathy as a consequence.
High-fidelity simulation involves the use of advanced, realistic simulators, often combined with immersive scenarios, to replicate clinical environments and patient conditions. It often uses realistic mannequins or simulated patients and props or technology to increase ontological fidelity. Whilst online learning has been shown to deliver educational benefits and flexibility, we need to address ontological fidelity of simulation in online case-informed learning to fully realise its benefits. We aimed, therefore, to create cases that tell the story of a person rather than presenting a disease as a central focus, and bring the patient to life by making them the protagonist of their narrative rather than the clinician. We wanted to portray the person as a whole rather than just a medical case, and we wanted to be able to use readily available technology to enhance ontological fidelity and interactivity, which is known to improve outcomes in online learning. We enhance the ontological fidelity by generating authentic humanized characters for our case-informed learning using Adobe Firefly, which is a generative AI that produces lifelike images of people in response to prompts. This allows the students to put a face to a name, but avoids the issues of copyright, consent, and ethical issues of using existing images. We incorporated their life world, which is to say their own personal narrative, their emotions, any cultural aspects and context in order to create patient characters who felt fully human. And we centered the patient's voice to let them tell their story in their own words. We enhance the interactivity by using a program called Thinglink, which is a website and app-based program that allows you to add icons or tags to a digital item, in this case the image of the patient. On the poster you can see an image of one of our patients called Sophie, who is presented to the practitioner with the complaints of a sore throat and feeling unwell. On this image you can see that there are 3 tags, the blue circles, which the student can click on in order to reveal information about Sophie. The settings allow you to indicate to the student in what order these tags should be accessed. The tag at the top reveals Sophie's presenting complaint in her own words, why she's come to seek help today. It also includes some information about Sophie, her age, and the fact that she has mild learning difficulties. And so to augment this section, we included a link to a short video clip from a person who has learning difficulties, talking about their experience of healthcare and what they found helpful and what they found unhelpful. The second icon then reveals the health history of Sophie, which is structured using a familiar tool to the students, either Old Cart or Socrates, but again is in Sophie's own words. The third icon gives a link to another Thinglink interactive image where they can discover the results of the physical examination. They would then be asked to use all this information to arrive at a differential diagnosis and make a management plan going forward. The finished Thinglink can be embedded into the virtual learning environment, and we use it in the test feature of Blackboard in a formative exercise. This allows us to provide a model answer which the student can compare to their own once the test has been submitted, providing instant feedback.
Prior to this initiative, we have successfully used purely paper-based case-informed learning. This always received good feedback from learners, particularly around improving clinical decision-making and encouraging wider reading. Therefore, we were confident in the concept of case-informed learning and that it was successful. However, to improve the experience, we wanted to move away from a static document containing text only to a more meaningful experience by utilising ontological fidelity. We used a mixed method approach. Using Microsoft Forms, we approached 2 cohorts of learners, those in Year 1 and those in Year 2 of the programme. Year 2 learners were able to compare the previous format of the case-informed learning, which they had become accustomed to during their first year of study, alongside the experience of using Thinglink and Adobe Firefly. The Year 1 cohort had access to the newer format and were asked specific questions around the formatting, its application to clinical practice, and how they felt it supported their learning. Both cohorts were asked a mix of open and closed questions with appropriate text boxes supplied where relevant to allow for evaluation of quantitative responses. 100% of learners enjoyed the exercise, and when asked about applicability to clinical practice, Firefly and Thinglink scored 4.11 out of 5. We undertook some thematic analysis, and themes included encouragement of wider reading, supported understanding, and there was a clear link between theory and practice. Some of the more poignant comments included from learners were, they allowed me to connect the dots between the theory and practice. It solidified my understanding of signs of dehydration. I felt it was more interactive, which is a better way for me to learn, and I really liked the visual elements. When asking the second year students what their preference was in comparison to the older version, 68% preferred using Thinglink and Adobe Firefly in the newer version, 16% had no preference, and 16% preferred the paper version. So in conclusion, this design may offer an alternative approach for face-to-face programs looking to reduce their environmental impact through the use of online delivery. It's not simply substituting for face-to-face simulation, but building a fully realised, sound online educational model.